I have this idea that, especially, 2021, 2022, when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out, it was like, it was almost the biggest mirror of moral philosophical problem that we seek in our society happening at a cultural level. Like, I've studied a ton of like film, and I always find them to be a good reflection, especially once they get popular. They're just a good reflection of what's going on inside the culture at large. And so this is around when I was getting married and deciding, a lot of intense things, living in this world of unlimited options.
Yeah.
And that's what the multiverse represents to me. Like, I think, in the 90s, it was a lot more around this like quantum idea. And then now I think it's catching on really, really hard, between Marvel, Everything Ever All at Once, a few other, I'm sure, but like
something else recently.
But it's catching on because now the multiverse means something else. So if you're dating on the apps, if you're ordering food on Uber Eats, if you're living in this world where you never have to commit to a decision, you can change anything at any point, and it seems like you're in this crazy game theory battle where you're never able to figure out what the right move is for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what Everything Ever All at Once was for me. Like, oh, what if I made all these different decisions across all of my life?
Right.
What would be the outcome? And the why I thought it was a very moral, positive movie was because she realized that she had to commit to her story and her storyline, and through commitment, she was able to like find sanity in a sea of infinite options.
Yeah. I loved that movie, and for that reason too. That this idea of, yes, you can't just keep imagining all the alternatives and all the other options, and I think there is also this aspect of multiverse enamorment that there's just some other world that will solve all of your problems for you. Right? Like, if you could just pop into this different reality, then you wouldn't have to do the work of fixing your own problems.
Yeah.
And that's like that's a lot of the stories that we get fed today, right? Like, sign up for this diet and then you won't have to like actually try with health and fitness or whatever. Or like, take this course and your business is going to just like magically take off, right? Like that's one of the most compelling stories. And yeah, the multiverse can kind of like, the idea of the multiverse can kind of feed on that. But I do really think it's true that optionality is kind of a trap. It goes back to what I was just saying earlier about like trying all these different careers. It's a good way to sample, but then you have to commit to something. You can't just keep sampling forever. And I generally think that sampling stuff, you can never get more than a 60-70% hit rate or success. And the rest of it, the real value comes from the committing to it and the investing in it and the working on it, right? Like, you're never going to find a 100% partner on a dating app because they don't exist. You could find one of the many potential like 60 to 80% partners, but the one who becomes 100% is the one that you like commit to and invest in very seriously and like work with, and you grow it. And same thing with, your work, right? It's like, there's probably a lot of things that you could focus on for, 10 years and do well at, but the only one that you'll actually do well at is the one that you actually focus on. Right. And so not committing to things, jumping around constantly. Yeah. Again, you're just like sort of treading water and like not getting what you actually want, despite thinking that you're looking for it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I felt that way around ideas a lot, as if they're like mental masturbation as I'm pursuing new ideas or new ways to do it. And I started to think to myself, like, what are the core things that were like very quaky for me?
Yeah.
That would really hold me in place for a long time. And how do I just start to like build more stories or examples around that over and over and over again?
Yeah. I like that, because I think it's true. You don't need that many ideas, right? Like, this is sort of the genius of the 10 Commandments, is that if you just follow those 10 rules, if everybody just follows those 10 rules, you're going to have a relatively functional society.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need a ton of other things. Like, it's actually a pretty incredible algorithm for coordinating a large number of people at scale. Is like, do these 10 things, and if you don't, bad things will happen to you. If like that's your guiding operating system for life, it's probably going to go okay. Yeah. Right. But if you are spending all this time reading tons of blogs on like, oh, I need all these mental models, and I need, 30 different philosophies, and I need to read like my 15th book on stoicism, and like blah, 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 right? You're just adding all of this noise when, like you said, I think the better goal is what is the like smallest basket of ideas that can be my algorithm for life, if you want to try to home roll it instead of adopting one of the like preset packages that are out there. And the presets are pretty good, right? Like 10 Commandments, or like Eightfold Path, right? Like Four Noble Truths. You know, you can like a few of them are quite good, right? They might not be 100%, but they're a lot better than the attempts to like create a whole new package, right? And this is like one of my criticisms of like science and scientism and sort of like modern humanism. No, there's a better word for it. Liberal humanism, right? It's sort of like the idea that we can just figure out a whole new package of beliefs that's going to be better than a lot of the old ones. Like a lot of the old beliefs are pretty good. But that is definitely a good exercise of how much can I distill this to what I should actually focus on for my life.
I think this is where, you know, TikTok short form specific content makes me the most anxious. When I think about the future for our kids or even just for myself, is this constant state of distractibility. What does that mean? It's like I'm so conditioned to look for novel that I'm actually not sticking to things that work just because I'm in this state of distractibility constantly.
Yeah.
And as somebody who grew up lightly pre-internet, you know, like was playing Neopets on dial-up and stuff, but I'm even watching in the last like 2 years my brain like conditioning a little bit differently based on how I'm consuming content and what I'm doing. And it's just like, what does that mean for future generations? And it's the distraction, like it's that deeper thing, the lack of reflection, to, you know, like to need to feel like I have to create 1,000 things because I just consumed 1,000 things.
Yeah. Well, and I think we talked about this a little bit with parenting, where the core of parenting advice is actually very simple and hasn't really changed much over time. And you don't need a ton of rules and tricks and, you know, tactics and books and tools and all of these things. But if you're on, you know, mom talk all day, getting like crazy amounts of advice and, you know, oh, if your child blinks too quickly, they probably have autism, and you're just like you're just in the flow of it,
just like timing the blinks, like, oh
yeah, exactly,
fuck, dude.
Right? It's just like that's gonna destroy you because you're always gonna be looking for some new thing you have to try to like bolt on to your operating system for the world, and you're just never going to have any stability. You're going to feel really lost, and what are you going to do when you feel lost? You're going to go look for more information. You're going to be stuck on that hamster wheel all the time and like never have that stability. And it's like, you know, going back to writing, I was very intentional about trying to find old and almost like textbooky resources that I could use to try to get better, because especially in the internet age, if somebody has a Twitter audience or an Instagram audience or a YouTube audience, their incentive is to make more noise to keep growing their audience. And so if you are trying to learn from somebody who's incentivized to make more noise, you are actually wasting more of your time, because the writing influencer on Twitter has to keep, you know, giving out new pieces of advice, and you probably don't need that much advice. You actually need a lot less, and you need to go do the thing. Right? Like you'd probably be a better parent if you took all the time that you spend on mom talk or dad talk and just like played with your kids.